Okay, good evening. It's 6 o'clock. Welcome to the Planning Board meeting for the town of East Fishkill for June 20th, 2023. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. The upcoming meeting dates are July 18th, 2023 and August 15th, 2023. We have three meeting minutes to approve tonight. I'll take them one at a time. The first one are the minutes for the March 21st meeting. If you were not in attendance, you can abstain. But for the March 21st minutes, could I have a motion to accept them?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain since I was not here.
Okay, the meeting minutes for April 18th, 2023. Can I have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And finally, John abstained.
Yeah, he wasn't here.
And finally, the meeting minutes for the May 16th, 2023 meeting. Can I have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we'll do a roll call starting with John Greenan.
John Greenan?
Don Pappy.
John Eichman.
Richard Campbell.
Ed Miyoshi.
Sarah Bledsoe.
Thank you. So the first item on the agenda is Tom's subdivision. Good evening.
Good evening. I believe Mr. Gillespie sent over the application for the extension. We're here about, we just like to get it extended 6 months.
Okay.
Because 6 months to get a well driller there, get water samples, and it's been in the county's hands since then. Hopefully, Mr. Gillespie, within the next week, he feels he's going to hear something. He's been hearing something for the last 2-3 weeks. So.
Gotcha. Okay, are there any questions by any board members or members of our professional staff? If not, we do have a resolution that I will read. Name of subdivision plan, Tom subdivision, name of applicant, John Thom. Resolution offered by Planning Board member John Eichman, whereas the Tom Minor subdivision was granted final approval for a 3-lot subdivision on September 13th, 2022. Whereas the subdivision approval expired on March 13th, 2023, and whereas the applicant is requesting 2 additional 30-day extensions from March 13th, 2023 to September 13th, 2023.
Shouldn't that be 3 months?
2 additional 3-month extensions. Thank you for that correction. Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll amend that to not 30-day extensions, but 3-month extensions, 2 of those. The dates are correct, I believe. Now therefore be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby extends final subdivision approval for the above project as represented on a map entitled Minor Subdivision Plan Indigo Industries, prepared by M. Gillespie and Associates Consulting Engineers, PLLC, dated January 31st, 2022, and last revised August 31st, 2022, subject to the following conditions. All conditions contained in the original resolution of subdivision approval, dated 9/13/22, must be met. And number 2, recreation fees in the amount of $12,500 due to the town of East Fishkill prior to the signing of the subdivision plat in final form by the duly authorized officer of the East Fishkill Planning Board and pursuant to a Planning Board resolution granting final approval to the plat or after conditions specified in a resolution granting conditional approval of the plat are completed. That was a little difficult to read, but I think we all know what we're saying. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the Planning Board shall cause a copy of this resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner. Could I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. And we will do a roll call vote. Board member Lori G.
Aye.
Ed Miyoshi.
Aye.
Sarah Bledsoe.
Aye.
Richard Campbell.
Aye.
Donald Pepe.
Aye.
John Greenan.
Aye.
And John Eichman. I'm an aye. It passes. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, next item on the agenda is 46 Foster Road. 4446 Foster Road. Good evening.
We have proposed a change in use from office space to medical use in one of the buildings. At the present time, there are 2 existing buildings on one lot, and one of the buildings, we would like to change it from office use to medical use. In doing that, we needed to add additional parking spaces. So we proposed on our plans to go from existing 42 parking spaces to 52 parking spaces.
Excellent.
John, I'd just like to add something here. We've added a new sort of category change of use because we've had a number of ones that have come in that are just change of uses that need, typically it's a parking analysis done. But sometimes they also need to just update their existing old, outdated site plans that haven't been done since the 80s or 70s sometimes. And there's some changes that over the years that have occurred on the site without amending the site plan. So we're trying to get the site plans amended and as-built done, essentially. In this case, he was actually modifying the parking, so he created new parking and had to amend the site plan anyway. And I believe you also are removing like a planter, right, that was in the center of the
Right,
parking to add
And
additional parking.
by removing the planter, we will be able to accommodate an additional 4 cars.
4 cars. So now so for the change of uses, I've already gone through all the parking analysis and I have come to agreement with the applicant about the parking. So it's safe to say that those have all been vetted by staff and we've gone out there, looked at everything. And it's just now for you guys to look at the parking and look at any other issues that you may have on the site and make recommendations.
Excellent. Thank you, Michelle. Has the Fire Advisory Board had a chance to review the new plan and the new parking plan? Okay, great. Any questions by board members or comments? Anything from our professionals? If
So
not,
would that be a condition then of this site plan approval, that he have the amended site plan?
Yeah, so basically, he's already submitted an amended site plan.
Okay.
A lot of times how we catch these is they come into the building department for an occupancy permit, and then the building department says, hey, you have to go to the planning board first. So they've actually been in the pipe for a little while, so at that time, they get sent to the planning for us to review the parking, and we make comments to it, and sometimes they're able to submit revised site plans to us ahead of time. So the site plan that's referenced on this resolution is a revised site plan.
Okay, and it has been vetted?
Correct.
And Michelle, you said the parking meets our requirements?
Yes.
That's a big
Yeah,
change from regular to medical, right?
Correct. They already had a lot of parking on that site anyway, but then he did add a number of additional spaces.
okay, any other questions, comments? If not, I'll offer a resolution. Name of site plan, 4446 Foster Road. Name of applicant, 46 Foster Road Limited. Resolution offered by Planning Board member John Eichman. Whereas the applicant is applying for a change of use from professional office space to medical office space, and a minor site plan amendment to reflect parking lot and site improvements, including the removal of a planter, restriping, and ADA compliance. And whereas no change in the building footprint is proposed, and whereas the proposed project is a type 2 action under seeker, no further environmental review is required. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby approves the change of use and minor amendments to the site plan as represented on a map entitled 4446 Foster Road, prepared by CBK Engineering, dated May 18th, 2023, last revised May 31st, 2023, with the following conditions. Number 1, the approval is conditioned on the site meeting all Dutchess County Health Department requirements. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the planning board shall cause a copy of this resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Lori. The vote will be a roll call vote again. Board member Lori G.
Aye.
Ed Miyoshi.
Aye.
Sarah Bledsoe.
Aye.
Richard Campbell.
Aye.
Donald Pepe. John Greenan.
Aye.
And John Eichman. I'm an aye. It passes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next item on the agenda is Brookmead Plaza. Another change of use.
Good evening,
Good evening.
members of the board. My name is Bob Lacola. I'm here representing the owner of the plaza, GRNEB LLC. What's happening here is there's one space of approximately 1,500 square feet that's being put into use as a physical therapist's office. About that type of use is a medical use required an additional 2 ADA parking spaces. In the process of submitting that, your town planner had requested that we update the site plan. So we took a recent certified survey and modified it, had an engineer modify it to show all existing conditions so that there's a fresh map that replaces the one that was, I believe, 35 years old, that was on file here. And that's what's before you tonight.
And I think the other change is that the CrossFit gym, that's existing use, is maybe expanding slightly into an addition, into a space that was next door to it.
Yeah, they're taking 2 additional suites, but that was a use that was there before. They're just expanding their footprint within the confines of the building.
Okay.
And again, we prepared a parking analysis. We had them write all of the existing tenants, all the required parking. We looked at everything. We looked at where the handicap spaces were in relationship to the physical therapy office and the other uses, and they fixed the site plan, and it looks good at this point for parking.
Excellent. Any questions or comments by members of the board?
Michelle, do we put in or I should have asked, is there additional vacant space there still, or?
No.
Okay, so
That
that
was the
fully,
last open space.
okay. I was just going to ask if we put in like a plug number, if there was any additional vacant space.
I
Okay.
thought the space on the corner of the building is vacant. You know, like when the building kind of goes 2 separate ways. Isn't there a vacant space to the left of the gym?
To the left of the, that's being fitted out right now.
Oh, it is.
Giacomo's, I think Giacomo's is going in there.
Giacomo's
Oh, okay.
Pizza is going in, and this is a space that's to the left of that,
Okay.
between the new Giacomo's and Carol's Deli.
Okay. Any other questions, comments by board members or, excuse me? Yes, sir.
Do you know if there are Knox box for that building?
I don't recall seeing one. That could be added.
We didn't see the plan for this, but if there's no Knox box on the building, if the recommendation we make,
We can add,
breaking down rules.
Right. Is that an acceptable condition to you?
I believe so.
We'll add it to the resolution. Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll offer a resolution. Name of site plan, Brookmead Plaza. Name of applicant, Gren Group. Resolution offered by Planning Board member John Eichman. Whereas the applicant is applying for a change of use from vacant space to a physical therapy office and for the expansion of a CrossFit gym. Whereas the changes of use will require minor site plan amendments to reflect parking lot improvements, including the creation of additional ADA spaces. Whereas no change in the building footprint is proposed. Whereas the proposed project is a type 2 action under seeker and no further environmental review is required. And now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby approves the change of use and minor amendments to the site plan for Brookmead Plaza as represented on a map entitled Amended Site Plan for Brookmead Plaza prepared by Povil Engineering PLLC and dated 5/30/23. Subject to the condition that the applicant adds a knockbox per fire advisory recommendations. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the planning board shall cause a copy of this resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Rich. Board member Lori G.
Aye.
Ed Miyoshi.
Aye.
Sarah Bledsoe.
Aye.
Richard Campbell.
Aye.
Donald Pepe. Aye. John Greenan. Aye. John Eichman. I'm an aye. Passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Farmview Estates at Phillips Farm. We need to declare lead agency on this, and so could I have a motion to declare intent to be lead agency?
it's just declare lead agency.
Declare lead agency.
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rich. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Please go ahead, Brian.
All right, Brian Stacosa, Day and Stacosa Engineering. We were here 2 months ago, giving the board an update on the improvements that we did to the subdivision, and we were asked to take a closer look at containing the 100-year storm on the lower drainage basin along Route 82. We went along and did that. We took into account feelings on Lot 10, which was formerly Lot 10, was the building lot near the road. In revising our drainage and, listening to the board's reaction to, that house location on Lot 10, we decided to take that lot off the plan. So we go from an 11-lot subdivision down to a 10-lot subdivision. We addressed comments related to the stormwater. We still have a couple of technical dot the i's, cross the t's items to resolve that we can handle during final approval, but we did maintain that freeboard that we talked about. We have the 100-year elevation in the pond, and then we had some area above that just in case we had a major storm event. So there's a level of protection that has been built into that lower holding pond. Other updates, we did submit to New York State DOT formally for an entrance permit for the commercial subdivision entrance, and then the also individual driveway entrance on what is now Lot 10, formerly Lot 11. We haven't heard back from DOT. I even reached out to Cassandra at the permitting office. I copied Rich on it, just looking for an update. As far as I know, I haven't heard anything. I don't think Rich's office has heard anything. But in dealing with Cassandra on site, we did walk the site originally when the subdivision was proposed. The site really hasn't changed, other than we've taken one lot off the plan. We did discuss verbally over the phone about the infiltration basin along Route 82. In her mind, she didn't have a problem with it, but she was going to elevate it to the Poughkeepsie office. We haven't heard back from DOT yet. So that's still pending. Specific to addressing screening concerns, we added some additional arborvitae along Route 82. And looking at the town engineer's comment letter, it looks like we want to go with more of a little bit of a wider berm and more of a stacking concept. I don't think there's an issue with entertaining that. We have a little bit more area now that Lot 10 has come off the map. We reconfigured the lot lines to get rid of that sliver, so we're in more conformance now with what a typical lot looks like. We just labeled the space between lots 10 and 7 and 8 as a green area. It's that purple line along the southern border where lot 10 is. So the intent is to keep the vegetation there and keep it green so we give protection to our neighbors. The other big thing is, going from the 11 lots to the 10 lots and talking to the town engineer from a water service standpoint. They are in agreement that they can, provide water to us. We would obviously have to work with the Board of Health in securing agreements and individual permits to extend the water line and water services to the individual lots. But right now, we're backing away from the two-phased concept and having all 10 lots under one phase. I think from a plan point of view, those are the major items that we've addressed since the last time we spoke.
So Brian, at this point, right now you're currently showing a guardrail along 82, but you're not sure if that's going to be required at this point from DOT?
So DOT said they didn't see a need for it because we had the berm and we have the trees on top of it. It's outside of the right-of-way. We always showed the guide rail inside our property line. From a maintenance standpoint, if the DOT doesn't require it, I'm sure the town would not want to maintain it because it would be in the drainage district. So in that case, we could take that off the plan.
So that's something you guys should consider.
Okay.
Does that mean is the plan that's currently in front of DOT has the guide rail on it?
It has the guide rail on it. Just we asked for their opinion of do they want it, do they not want it. Cassandra wanted to elevate it to the office and see what they said.
But they have it in their property. That was one of the things that we had questioned. That if it's in the DOT right away, it gets to be the DOT's. If it's on their property, then somebody in the town has to maintain it later on. So what we had recommended was maybe raise the berm up a little bit, let that be, do two things, let it be the screening berm, and then let it also be the protection, let that be the guardrail.
That's fine. I'm sure from a maintenance standpoint, I'm sure the town would gravitate toward the screening and the higher berm.
Okay, got it. Rich, has the applicant answered all of your questions?
Yes, in general, the new layout, we're very actually happy to see that because that reduction of the one lot really did solve a lot of the issues there. It opened up a lot more room for them. Their stormwater is a lot more simple now. There was 2 lots before that had individual stormwater systems on them with buried Coltech units. Those are gone, so those are out of the picture now, so we don't have that maintenance issue. The access that we were concerned about before to the stormwater basin in the front, that's now much better because it's further up the street. It's not right on the corner. It doesn't have to go as deep. So in general, everything with the reduction of that lot really made this, everything that they're doing a lot more simple. There's a few things on the SWIP report, that some nuts and bolt items that they need to take care of. But other than that, we're much more pleased with the set of plans now.
Excellent.
I just want to add one thing. There was a habitat assessment that was done, and it included some measures, mitigation measures, like removing the trees during the time period that you're permitted to remove the trees, and also there was Blanding's turtle, potential Blanding's turtle habitat. Although they don't suspect that they'll be there, there were some measures that they recommended that be implemented as well. So those are included in the neg deck and also in the resolution. And it'll include I think also the turtle habitat is not supposed to be disturbed during, I think it pretty much coincides with the timing of the bat anyway. So, but I just want to make mention of that it's in there and it's kind of lengthy in the neg deck and in the resolution, so you don't have to read it all. We can just refer to the recommendations from the habitat assessment that was done by the applicant's professional.
Got it, great,
And all that's incorporated in their plan set.
excellent. Questions and comments by board members? Any further comments by our professionals?
I had a couple of minor things. Well, one, with the DOT, you know, I think that certainly, I think, would need to be a condition of approval in terms of getting, you know, at least conceptual approval of what's on the plan. There was, and I don't know if this got taken care of, Brian, or not, but there was a vertical curve, I think, right off the entrance road coming from 82 that was slightly out of the town code requirements. I think it just didn't meet the minimum length.
Right, well, we've already addressed it.
Oh, you did, okay, all right.
We didn't make the submission, but we picked up on it after we submitted.
Okay, and then I think the only other thing of significance that we had was, there is, I think one of the notes refers to like a 300-foot site easement area. And, you know, just a sight line along the frontage, I believe. And I think we were just making a recommendation that site easement area be shown on the plan, so that, you know, in the future, if it needs to be enforced, to be clear to vegetation or something, it's on the plan. You're not going to try to interpret it out of a note or.
And actually, I would second that with the habitat requirements, just put them on the plan.
Yep, absolutely.
But the DOT approval will be based on the submission of what he sent in with that guardrail on it. So if they approved it based on that, then that guardrail would have to stay?
Well,
I mean,
it's off the right of way. I mean, I don't know. My suggestion on that, Brian, would be that you send a little clarification to the DOT.
Yeah.
Telling them, even if you said that, you know, the town preference is not to put the guardrail in, and, you know, to have them look at it that way.
Right, when we submitted our package to DOT, we had a narrative about the guide rail.
Okay.
Saying that if they required it, we would provide it. It's not in their right of way, but the preferred method is, you know, trying to go with a more natural berm and tree.
But again, it's based on the submission of what he put forth already.
I think that was part of, like, there was
Yeah,
that clarifying
so,
statement,
okay.
right? Yeah. We'll have to make sure that that's, you know, whatever comes back as the conceptual approval, we'll make sure that that point is addressed.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay?
And one other condition I think we'll need is, we'll need a performance bond for the internal road, and then once the road's actually constructed, we'll need a maintenance bond in place with satisfaction of town engineer.
Okay, when we get to the resolution, I'll ask for some help with the additional conditions. Any other questions or comments?
Just the last lot that got combined into one, is that one huge lot? Or I can't see from here where the line is. Is that one huge lot or is with a big easement on it? Or is it,
The easement
Broken off.
covers the stormwater management pond.
yeah,
And it covers the access. Other than that, the lot is for the owner of the piece. They'll have the largest lot there, consider that like an estate lot.
how big is the like usable space outside of the easement for that lot?
You're probably 1.75 acres. It's probably a 2-acre lot, just a hair over.
Okay.
Okay. We have a negative declaration. I will try to summarize this. Anyone who wants to see a full copy can find the complete copy in the planning board anytime. Planning office. The name of the action is Farm View Estates at Phillips Farm. It's an unlisted action. The environmental issues identified as relevant included land use and zoning, visual character, historic and archaeological resources, plants and animals, traffic and transportation, water and septic, and other. Under land use, zoning, and public policy, the proposed action would result in the subdivision of an undeveloped 13.37 acre lot previously used for farming into 10 residential lots. The proposed lots and residential use would be consistent with the existing R1 residential zoning and the town's comprehensive plan. Therefore, the proposed project would not be expected to result in any significant adverse impacts. Under visual character, the proposed project would result in the construction of 10 new homes on Route 82 across from Phillips Farm. Several of the new residential homes would be partially visible from Route 82. The required berm and screening along the stormwater basin fronting Route 82 between the existing residential properties to the south and west will also be maintained to screen views of the lots from the existing residential properties. With the implementation of the berm and vegetated buffers, the proposed new homes would not be expected to significantly alter existing views from neighborhood properties and Route 82. Therefore, the proposed project would not be expected to result in any significant change to visual character, and no significant adverse visual impacts are expected. Under historic and archaeological resources, the EAF prepared by the applicant indicates that no significant historic or archaeological resources are located on the site. The proposed project is not expected to result in any visual impacts to Phillips Farm. Therefore, no significant adverse impacts to historic or archaeological resources would be expected. Under wetlands, plants, and animals, we heard an earlier description by Michelle. Basically, I'll come to the conclusion with the implementation of the actions listed in the habitat assessment and described above, the proposed project would not be expected to result in any significant impacts to wetlands, plants, and animals. Under traffic and transportation, with the required approvals from New York State DOT, the proposed action would not be expected to result in any significant adverse impacts. Under water and septic, with required approvals from the Dutchess County DCDBCH, the proposed action would not be expected to result in any significant water or septic impacts. And there are no...
Comment on that.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that the homes are within the Hopewell, the Ryan Drive Hopewell Precision remediation area. They're actually not within it. They're monitored regularly by EPA. I think in the past, we've had like notes that we've put on the subdivision plans. Lori, I'm looking at you because we haven't had one of these in a while. But I don't remember to what, just so that anyone purchasing the lots see on there that they're within that area and that their wells are monitored. I don't remember exactly how
On the individual plats or the deed, right?
So I don't know if that's something that the planning board wants to consider here or not, but
Would that be
theoretically, they're hooking to town water, so that shouldn't be an issue at all.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I could see that being an issue if you're digging a well, but
Two aspects. One is water and one is air permeation through the ground. So I know the homes in that area have to have certain, air system put in, ventilation type of system. So we require that as part of every building permit, whether or not we want to have that, on a filed
Just add a note to the file plat, that'll be fine.
Air intrusion, sorry.
Okay, and that's just a notification requirement, is that correct?
It'll be a note on the file plat, so then when anyone does a title search, they'll get a copy of the plat and then we can put on notice.
So we can just add that as to the, add it to the conditions.
I'll need some help. So that brings us to the end of the neg deck. May I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And so we're now on to the resolution, the final subdivision approval. Name of subdivision plan, Farmview Estates, AKA Estates at Phillips Farm. Resolution offered by Planning Board member John Eichman. Whereas the applicant applied for an 11-lot subdivision of a 13.37-acre parcel, whereas the subdivision was reduced to 10 lots to provide for additional stormwater facilities and better lot arrangement, whereas the public hearing was opened on December 20th, 2022 and closed on April 18th, 2023, whereas the Planning Board declared lead agency under seeker on 11/10/22 and a coordinated review was undertaken, and whereas a negative declaration was adopted by the Planning Board on June 20th, 2023, now therefore be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby grants subdivision approval for the above project as represented on a map entitled Farmview Estates, New York State Route 82, Danes Stokosa Engineering PC, dated January 17th, 2022, and last revised May 23rd, 2023, subject to the following conditions. Number one, approval from the Dutchess County Board of Health for on-site septic system. And number two, approval from the Dutchess County Board of Health for municipal water distribution extension as per the town engineer's letter to Brian Stokosa dated June 20th, 23. And number three, recreation fees in the amount of $56,250 due to the town of East Fishkill prior to the signing of the subdivision plat in final form by the duly authorized officer of the East Fishkill Planning Board and pursuant to a Planning Board resolution granting final approval to the plat or after conditions specified in a resolution granting conditional approval of the plat are completed. Number four, satisfactory resolution of any outstanding comments from the Renia Engineering Design, PLLC, review letter dated 6/14/23. Number five, satisfactory resolution of any outstanding comments from Hudson Valley Engineering Associates, review letter dated 6/16/23. Number six, New York State DOT approval of the proposed subdivision road entrance accessing 9 lots. Number seven, New York State DOT approval of the curb cut for the proposed lot 10 driveway on Route 82. Number eight, to avoid impacts to threatened and endangered species, including Indiana bat and Blanding's turtle, the following measures must be implemented as documented in the habitat assessment prepared for the site by Michael Nowicki, the applicant's consultant. 8A, all tree removal activities must occur only between October 1st and March 31st to avoid direct impact to bats. B, all site lighting will use full cutoff fixtures that direct light down to minimize light pollution and interference with potential bat foraging activities. C, during construction activities, soil conservation and dust control best management practices such as watering dry disturbed soil areas to keep dust down and using staked, recessed silt fence and anti-tracking pads to prevent erosion and sedimentation in surface waters on the site must be implemented. D, stormwater ponds cannot be maintained with any chemicals that might adversely affect bats or insect populations on which they may feed. Under Blanding turtles, the following measures will be utilized around the perimeter. I'm going to try to summarize these. There should be a restrictive barrier made of fine mesh, minimum of 42 inches high, anchored into the ground, secured at the base. Number nine, satisfactory resolution of any New York State DEC conditions. Number 10, an escrow payment in the amount of $10,000 for an environmental monitor during construction to be replenished when required. Number 11.
That'll be the,
Oh, it's,
that'll be a performance bond for the internal road, followed by a maintenance bond once the road's fully constructed, and both will be, need to be approved by the town engineer.
Okay. Number 12.
okay, and number 12 is, I guess, is it the installation of a vapor intrusion system or the?
Vapor intrusion, like a mitigation system for vapor intrusion.
Okay, the installation of a mitigation system for vapor intrusion.
It's similar to a radon system, similar to that.
And a note will be filed on the map.
Okay.
And I just wanted to add the notes from the Landings Turtle will be included on on the subdivision plat
Okay.
and the Indiana map.
And do we have another one that requires placing the easement on the plan, or?
That's in my comment letter.
That's
so
already
if he
there.
addresses the comment letter, he'll be.
Excellent, excellent. Any other conditions before we wrap this up? If not, then be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the planning board shall cause a copy of this resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Rich. Roll call vote, Board Member Lori G.
Aye.
Board Member Ed Miyoshi.
Aye.
Board Member Sarah Bledsoe.
Aye.
Board Member Richard Campbell.
Aye.
Board Member Donald Pepe.
Aye.
Board Member John Greenan.
Aye.
And Chairperson John Eichman. I'm an aye. Passes. Thank you, Brian. Okay. The next item on the agenda is an adjourned public, no. Yes, an adjourned public hearing. We'll start with, could I have a motion to reopen the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we need to declare lead agency. May I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So Rising Sky Housing.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What time's up?
Pardon me? It's okay.
Should have brought the hard copy. Just got one here.
Well, you know, and I don't know if you're comfortable starting a discussion without that. I think we've seen the plan a couple of times, and,
Joseph Berger Engineering for the applicant.
okay?
Basically, it's a 9,000 square foot contractor's building on a parcel. It's going to be on-site sewer septic system with a well. We're going to be treating the stormwater with both an oil water separator and a pre-treatment system into an infiltrator system. Those yellow chambers you all see underground. So we'll be recharging stormwater into the ground. Some of the concerns last time were the site, the view from the neighbors as well as from the daycare center. I presented in the package site distance profiles to the 3 homes and to the daycare center. It shows that the distance to the homes, you won't really see, especially with the woods, but we're situating a series of trees on the front, which would be the western part up against the cul-de-sac to block additionally. We're also putting a series of trees up, it would be the eastern side, even though it's above us at the property line, to add additional screening for that direction. And we're having some trees on the north side, but more importantly, we're putting a nice fence, a vinyl fence on top of a retaining wall, which will block the view and also block the sound. We did a sound study to check the sound in the area. We also measured the sound from the trucks that would come, which I presented in your sound study. And I showed calculations that where the trucks will be parked and where they'll be idling and where they'll be backing up, that if we put the vinyl fence right along the property line, will mitigate the sound to below what's allowed by the code. It should be noted most of the work will be done during the day, which there is no standard in the town of the sound. The sound kicks in at nighttime when there will be occasional use because contractors do have to go in and out during, especially paving season or landscaping. But the daycare center is closed at night. But irregardless, we still want to be a good neighbor, so putting the fence up, and we're using a vinyl fence because a vinyl fence has a superior sound attenuating than a stockade fence. So we chose to use a vinyl fence. On the plans that you have before you, I did the sound study after they were presented. We're going to be extending that fence another 30 feet further to the east so that there won't be any skirting of the sound around it. So in the final plans, we will have additional distance, which wasn't on the plan submitted to you because the study wasn't done yet.
So that's along the border with the daycare center,
Yes,
and it kind of goes up a little bit, right?
It's studying at least 30 feet east. What I did was the furthest point of where a truck would back up and have a beeping sound, which it could hit the fence and blow around, I extended past that. And I mentioned that in the sound study as a mitigation, so we've already added it, you just haven't seen it yet. Because it's part of our revised plan and part of this sound report that we presented. I think that's pretty much it. Are there any questions? I did receive comments from your engineer, and I think they're technical in nature, and we certainly can reply to them. I don't think there's anything substantial other than what we could reply back to them on.
Have you also seen the review that was done by Nelson Pope Voorhees on your sound study?
No, I did not. I must have
It just came today.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't in the office if you emailed.
Yeah, and then also, there was also an email, just, I don't know if you saw that, from the daycare center
Yes, I
folks.
read
They submitted a few comments.
Yeah, the daycare center's concern is the site, which we mentioned, the sound, which I mentioned. Trucks driving by, I don't think driving in and out a couple of times in the morning and in the evening are going to rise to a level of pollution that's going to cause any issue. The issues, I think, and I agree with our site and sound, but I think we mitigated both of them with the fence and the location. We kept the trucks behind the building specifically to block the sound going to other neighbors, and we situated it such, trying to minimize visual impact on all neighbors. And I think we've done what we could to mitigate both of those issues.
So the one thing the daycare folks mentioned was they have a bus that drops off currently. I don't know how, I think they, because the cul-de-sac right now is undeveloped, the bus probably just sits wherever it wants to sit. So, and at this point, they don't even drop at the bottom of the daycare center's driveway. They drop sort of up closer to the building, which is close to the entrance of your facility, right? Closer to the entrance of your facility.
They drive by, but their entrance is further up the road, substantially up the road.
So if they drop off where they currently do, it won't block your entrance?
No.
Okay.
What they do is they drive down, turn around, and cul-de-sac, that won't affect us.
Okay. One item that I think we talked about during our pre-meeting was the possibility that we need a special permit for excavation.
Yeah, I think it depends on how much we've calculated. You calculated it was going to be over the amount needed?
Yeah, it was revised at the last submission, but I still think there's a net export, if I'm correct, about 600
Yeah, there's always, we hope it won't be, but I think a conservative approach, it probably will be some export.
Yeah, so that special permit just needs to be added as a condition.
Okay, and
I'd
did you,
rather not during construction find out we have to take it off and then take that in consideration.
did you include that in your advertisement for the public hearing?
I'm not sure, to be
Okay.
honest.
Yeah, we had a similar situation to what they did for Stormville Square, because they had a lot of excess material they were going to take out in the backup. It's similar to this project.
Okay.
And I know I want,
We could lose everything on site if we had to. It's just, being extra careful by saying yeah or not.
I know at one time there was a fuel storage facility proposed, is that, and I believe you removed it, right?
We took it out based on your concern.
Okay,
The board had raised a concern, we immediately took it out.
okay.
And we were trying to respond to your concerns.
Since we've reopened the public hearing, I'll ask, are there any members of the public who have come to speak for or against the project? Doesn't appear so. Any other questions or comments from board members or professionals?
I think the comments concerning access and vehicle movement, they did adequately address. I think one comment, I'm not sure logistically how it could be accommodated, but just the fact that there's going to be trucks coming in and out in the early morning hours, potentially in darkness. One thing about Donovan Drive, it's on a narrow road. There's a downgrade and a curve that approaches it. The daycare, the fact that it leads to 84, people heading to John Jay. It's, there's going to be traffic, and just it would be nice if there could be a light or some type of street light at the end of Donovan Drive. There is a utility pole there. I don't know if there's some mechanism that could be worked out with the applicant to try to install, some type of highway light there, just to give a little lighting at that entrance, so if trucks are entering or exiting, it's a little bit more of have a little more sight out there. I'm talking about Donovan and Limekiln Road, yeah. Yeah.
So just for strictly visibility purposes?
Just for visibility, right. I mean, slow-moving trucks are going to come in and out.
Sure.
People are, it's just an area where you can see people wanting to be in a rush to get to somewhere, whether it's school or to work or to the daycare, and it'd just be nice if there's some way it could be worked out where we get some lighting. I know when we had a previous application, we talked about putting lighting at the end of that driveway for the crane plan. That I don't think that's ever moved forward, but we did make that comment then too.
Is that an issue? 'Cause that's not on their property though.
That's what I'm saying. Logistically, I don't know how, there are potential to rent lights from the power company. I just don't know logistically how that could work for the applicant or the town, but we just wanted to bring up that concern.
I'm just going to see if I can.
Michelle, before I lose you, so do we need to look into the question of whether the advertisement included the
Yeah,
special permit?
I don't believe it did include the special permit.
They won't have to re-advertise for that.
Okay.
It's known what this site plan is hearing about.
Excellent.
Whether that's excavated or not, I know they're still reviewing all the engineer's comments. They don't have to re-advertise.
Okay.
And we intend to keep all on site. I was just trying to be overly conservative.
Got it.
Take
Great.
Material off-site for the purposes of taking it off when we have room to place it somewhere is counterintuitive. Or would you spend money on a truck when I could place it and build a berm? And there's plenty of places to build nice landscape and berms if we have excess. And we definitely, anything like that, I would come back to you if there's an alteration because of that. But there's plenty of room to place it. I just thought, let's be a little bit open with it, but we'll try. We definitely are trying not to export.
Gotcha. Excellent.
With the berm, can you just remind me with the berm and then the fence on top, how high the barrier is going to be?
Well, the wall's about a foot off the ground and it's a 6-foot fence.
Okay.
Yeah, I think on the plans it showed a variable height from 4 foot to 8 foot height. I'm talking the fence next to the daycare center.
That's a 6-foot fence.
Okay, because I believe the plan's called 4 to 8 foot because the wall steps up in height as it goes up along there. So was the idea to kind of keep the top of the fence at one elevation and then step the bottom of the fence down to conform to the wall?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, but the height will essentially be around 7 feet.
Yeah, because of the berm, like it's up off the ground, and when the fence goes past the wall, what they're berming up a little bit at 7 foot. 6 works, but sound barrier at the base as well. We'll make those open, make it perfectly clear.
What did you say was the screening on the back side of the lot?
On the whole east side, which is on top of the hill, because it goes straight, there's woods. But, because we can't control what's gonna be on that property in the future.
Sure.
In that area where the site distance goes toward the people of view, we're putting trees.
Okay.
Have 6 or 8 trees in there, staggered in a row of 2, right on the top.
Okay.
I don't think they'll see it because there's trees there, but I think, I want to add some type of screening since it's in the site view.
I think the sound and the light was more of a concern when they were here at the last meeting. In that neighborhood that's off the back, the sound and the lighting was more of.
The sound, just by distance alone, not even taking into consideration the trees attenuating, it goes down to below what you normally would hear, 45, 50 decibels. They're both 600 feet, they're pretty far away.
Okay.
And just the attenuation of the sound itself. And then the ones to the west, which would be from the front, we have the building block in it, and I put a row of trees in the front as well for visual, which also would be attenuating. And the adjoining lot is all woods, but again, if those get developed, those woods go away, so we didn't take that into consideration. We just used the building and the trees we're putting in as our blockage for sound.
Got it. Any other questions, comments? Any reason we can't close the public hearing this evening?
You're revising the plan to show or you have revised it, we just don't have the latest version of the plan yet, right?
Yes.
So we'll close the public hearing. I think you still have some things you'll be working on for our next meeting, but for now, I'll accept a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
The next item on the agenda is Nail Clean Corporation.
I'm applying for a change of use or a property, and I don't have much about to say about our property because it's just,
I can just give a little background. I think you guys will remember this property that he's proposing to move his business into was the subject of an application before us for what was called Poffick Paws. It was a doggy daycare at one point, so you remember the site. So this gentleman is now applying to put his business, which is you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's like a water purifying machine or water purifying machine. And then he would do repair, which is sort of like, almost like computer repair. That's what it would be similar to.
My product.
And he can show you. He was supposed to come before us a couple months ago, but he got called out of town right before the meeting, so he wasn't able to present. And you guys wanted to hear from him.
But wasn't there a question of getting an updated site plan? Because there were some things, if I'm not mistaken, going on beyond the building, like there was some type of living space, or we were unsure of what it was. You know, there was a kitchen and some other things that I know Scott had mentioned. So we were trying to understand, I believe, at that point in time, if we had an updated.
What's actually in the building and what's there.
Okay.
So can you give us a rundown of the structures that are on your site and what is actually there?
We have 2 buildings on lot, and inside of one of the building has kitchen and several rooms in there. But not like living space, just part of the rooms. I think that's all in the building right now.
So nobody will be living in the buildings? How many employees will you have?
Well, we don't have employees yet. We just started 2 people. That's all. It might
But
be.
your expectation is that the company will grow though, and there'll be more people added, or
Well,
hopefully?
hopefully,
Yeah.
but maybe not more than 5. 'Cause
Not more than 5?
Not more than 5. Because all we do is just repair the product. We receive the product by UPS, and then we replace it, parts, and then we send it. That's all.
So you would just be using the main building in the,
Yeah.
and so the other building would still remain vacant and unused? And no future plan for that, or?
Well, for now, no, we don't have any plan for that building. We probably can use for storage in our parts, but not for.
I think the main building had like a kitchen area.
Yes, there's,
Is it still a kitchen?
yes.
So is anybody going to live in it, or just, what's the kitchen for?
I don't, the kitchen were there when we bought the
Yes.
building, but no, there's none.
Okay.
So you're,
Like as a break room, is that it, or
Good. You mean like a snack?
like a lunchroom?
Right, lunch.
so do I understand your equipment is used for water purification systems?
Can I explain?
Yes, please do.
We call it this as a sanitizer generator.
If you could use the microphone, that'd be great.
We call it a sanitizer generator. When the water runs through the machine will generate sanitizer with the salt, little bit amount of salt. So it's non-chemical, and this is the solution from the machine that I got. And it's very food grade. It's very safe. So we've been doing this business for 30 years, and we sold our product all over the world, about 10,000 units. So where they're using it for is, there's a food processing plant they are using to sanitize the food material before they pack the food material. That's the purpose of that machine.
Are all of the units this size, or are some larger for larger applications?
There are several sizes, like bigger machine, smaller, wall type.
And your company's function is just to repair them?
Yeah, for now,
Machines.
because we only have a few clients in the States, so we don't need a bigger company for now. Maybe we could expand in the future.
But you don't ever expect to manufacture these units there?
No. All our manufacturing plants are outside of the States now. So we are just gathering the components together and then resend it to our clients.
How many do you service on a regular basis?
I'm sorry?
How many units do you have on a regular basis that you would need to service?
For now,
Yeah.
1 or 2.
Okay, how often do they have to be serviced?
When they require, like, it's not like a certain,
So is that yearly maintenance, or it's based on usage, or?
do every year, kind of.
Okay.
So you also manufacture the new units?
In here?
Your company does the,
In here?
I think you said outside of the United States, you do manufacture? Okay.
We do.
Interesting. Is there a medical application for this purification system too?
Yes, there's like Indioscope sterilizer. So when the concentration goes higher, the usage of this solution can use for medical purposes.
Other questions or comments by board members or professionals?
I think it doesn't sound like there are really any outstanding site plan issues per se, any sort of internal reconfiguration. We'll do that to get building permits anyway, so you can approve this by motion.
Okay. So, I'll
I'm
let,
sorry, I do have, I'm sorry, John.
please go ahead.
When so you have these mailed to you and you repair them on site, is it primarily like a computer technical repair, or is there sound? Like, are you assembling something to repair them?
Assembling means like putting it
Tools?
I think she's asking if there's going to be any issues from noise as a result of the work that you're doing.
together. Use like screwdrivers.
Okay.
Putting it.
Okay. Good.
Okay. I'll accept a motion.
Fire advisory?
I apologize, sir.
Just to reiterate our recommendation for fire alarm system, Knox box, and the trash greater than 35 feet from the building that are fire resistant enclosure.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Do they not get this?
In the building, there's a fire alarm. And the fire extinguisher.
Does it go anywhere?
Is there a central station?
No, it's just box.
Just a box.
Sure it's not hooked in.
Yeah, but are you subscribed to a service, like if you did have a fire and the alarm activated, that it would call into a central station so that, let's say you're not present, that the fire department would then be dispatched to the facility if you did have a fire to extinguish it?
You mean like a ADT?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Right, yeah, we do.
Okay. So I guess what they're saying is, the fire advisory board is saying there's 3 requirements that they would like to see: that you do have a central station monitoring, that you do have a Knox box, like God forbid if they had to come to the site, instead of ripping your front doors off, that there's a key there made available that they would only have access to, that they could get into the building and again extinguish the fire. And then lastly, that you have a garbage container where you contain your garbage at least 35 feet away from your building and it's contained properly. So again, if there was a fire inside of it, that it would be
Wouldn't
kept to
wouldn't
that-
spread to the building. Yeah.
Correct, right to that area.
Well, we don't have the garbage, like a trash can, near the building yet.
Okay, so what they're saying is that you would have to have something made up 35 feet away from the building. That would be a receptacle with, like, normally it's built a block around it or something that could contain a fire if you had a fire in the garbage container.
So that means I need to put something.
Yeah, you have to pour like a concrete pad, and then how high is the receptacle? Like,
If it's 35 feet from the building, they don't need
They don't need it.
enclosure.
Yeah.
okay,
If they want it closer to the building, then they have to have the fire resistant enclosure.
yeah. So depending on who you subscribe to, like you could use a dumpster. Yeah, so you could, if you, and I'm not going to use names, but, a sanitation company, if you used a dumpster, that's properly contained, and that would have to be kept away from the building. But the Knox box is something you have to get online, and they can advise you where to get it. And that would contain the key that goes on the building. So again, that they would have access to it if you had a fire there and you weren't present.
So he can visit with either one of you gentlemen, I'm sure, to get additional detail and definition of what you're asking for?
And it would be just a condition when he gets
Yes.
it. He's going to have to go for a building permit. They're going to,
We can make
Require
these
it.
conditions of the building permit.
yeah.
Yeah.
So once you file for the building permit to do what you're going to do, this would, all this information will be at hand for you. And so once you went into the building process and you went to get your final approvals there, they would have to require that you do these things. And they'll explain to you what has to be done. It's nothing too elaborate, but it still has to be done just for safety requirements.
Based on what I'm seeing here, you don't have a lot of flammable materials that you're working with, right? It's basically machine components, so it's
Yeah.
not something that would, spontaneously catch fire or anything like that?
Probably more the packing materials than anything
Yeah,
else.
right.
And I'm sorry, the minor site plan amendment was what?
Well, actually,
Change of use.
Change of
Yeah,
use.
just change.
Change of use.
I'm seeing change of use and a minor
says
site plan
both.
amendment.
Originally, I think there were, in the past, on the old site plans, there was like a couple of old structures out there that no longer exist. There was like a container, and those were all removed. And there's an updated site plan showing those removed.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a site plan amendment, it's
No,
just an
it's just
approval of
change of
the
use at this
revised site plan? Okay.
Okay, so could I have a motion to approve this change of use and minor site plan, subject to the conditions that have been voiced regarding, that have come from the Fire Advisory Board?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So we've passed it here at the Planning Board, and I guess your next step is the Building Department, and you're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is East Fishkill Realty, 1983, 1989, Route 52.
It's not working. I don't know why.
Why don't you just read?
Michelle to the rescue.
That's not, no, that's not mine.
Good question.
There you go.
Excellent.
Good evening. My name is Charles May, representing, actually, it's Van Buren Company. It's 1983, 1989, Route 52, East Fishkill. It's a medical dental office building. We are here this evening to demonstrate the fact that we can expand the parking area. Originally, we had 89 spaces, and we're now up to 109 spaces. We had a meeting with Michelle, and we had a meeting also with Scott concerning the expansion of the parking area.
So just recently, we were able to, from a memo that we received from Michelle, they're actually able to, I guess we could do this. Yeah, we're actually able to, on the left-hand side of the western side of the actual building, we actually had 4 spaces. We eliminated those 4 spaces, and upon the recommendation of the fire commissioner, we expanded that corridor to a 20-foot width so we could have fire access all the way around the periphery of the building. So essentially, that's where we are at this particular point. I think that Michelle may have some other comments that she wanted to discuss with us, but.
So this is another one of these. So what happened was we were starting to get a lot of these site plans. This one came in before the other 2 change of uses that you saw in the beginning. So this was already an application and process, so we didn't put them in that category. But in this case, again, it's buildings, it's where PM Pediatrics is located. They're converting from office, the real estate office, to medical. And what's happened is there's not enough parking. So when they came in for their change of use, we asked them to do a parking analysis. We realized that we're really tight on parking, and we realized that on the west side of the building, there was a septic system there, and it was a grassed area, and we thought maybe we could improve the site circulation and add more parking by having them connect to the municipal sewer, and then create a way around the building and then add more parking, which they were able to do. So now the site will hopefully flow a lot better, and there will be additional parking spaces provided. And as a condition of the approval, they will be required to hook into the sewer.
Okay. Any questions by board members, comments?
And Michelle, is that parking is going from 89 to 110? Is that sufficient for the medical use?
So I think they're maybe shy a couple of spots, maybe, but in general, it's pretty close. It depends on how you count, because there's dental and medical, and then there's PM Pediatrics in there, and some of the hours are slightly off as well. So I'm confident that they have enough parking at this time with the spaces, because Matt was out there a number of times just kind of doing surveys, and they always were just about maxed out. So with the additional spaces, they should be good.
Okay, and are you at full capacity, then you're fully leased and there's no vacancy?
Well, what they're trying to do is actually, they have they're looking for a building permit because they actually have units that they're actually upgrading.
Right, those were counted in the parking
And they
though.
already were counted in the parking count.
Okay.
So,
And that would be even if they went to medical,
They are going to medical, so that's why we brought them to the
even the
planning board.
vacant ones.
Because they were expanding a dental practice,
Okay.
and we got that at the building department, they were going for a building permit, and we kicked them over again to
Okay.
the planning board, yeah.
Michelle, the latest plan I've got 106 because we took 3 off on the side.
You've only got 106?
106? I thought it was 109.
We took the 3 off the side to get the 19.
Oh, okay.
106 total.
So I think there's still some Houlihan Lawrence office, right, space in there. So if that converts to medical, we will have to do another parking analysis, but
Yeah,
they will
that
not.
was my question, so.
They will not be,
okay.
if they come in to convert for a change of use, they will be back before you.
And Echelon's has a small office in the western building, so if that converts to medical, same situation.
If PM Pediatrics were to be open longer, like if they were open in the morning, would it be a problem? And I say PM Pediatrics, but if it was any kind of urgent care.
I'm looking at Matt because he was out there. I think you were out there around noon, right? For one of the parking surveys, and
Right at noon, it was pretty full.
it was pretty full. And so we're adding about, what, 6? We're
15.
adding about 15 spaces, yeah. It's not, I mean, it's very, very tight. And even with the 15 spaces, with the expansion, it's the same medical dental practice. They're just adding another couple of chairs. So it's, it could be tight if they add additional medical into that plaza.
So that's what I'm saying. So basically, though, in a nutshell, they're landlocked at this point. So if there were medical added in there, there would be no ability to add parking.
They would have to come back here and demonstrate that they had the right parking if they were going to convert any more space to medical.
Or change the function of some of the medical, which wouldn't require them to come here.
Correct. But right now, they're parked, and they have sufficient parking for what they have there now.
Yeah.
Good.
But if and it's going to be a note on the plan, we're going to make them put a note on the plan.
Is
that they come
there
back.
any stacked employee parking?
Not currently, but we could require that. And we
I
could
didn't know,
also,
I know it was discussed, I don't know.
That's going to be a way that if they need to convert, that they,
Yeah.
I'm not sure there's a location for it, but you'd have to look. But the one thing I'm a little confused about, though, how many of those 45-degree spaces, how many were added?
What was it, 15, I think? If you read the plan, it's right written out.
Yeah, I can't see it from here, that's all, sorry. Does it say 15?
Yes.
And then the parallel parking along the back of the building is also added?
That's 12.
That's 12, so 15 and 12, so how are we only getting plus 15? I'm a little confused, I think it's plus than a lot more.
We had to lose some in the front of the building for proper handicap spaces. There were not.
that was
So if
going to
we're
be my
adding
next question, if
27
we had sufficient ADA spaces around the whole building.
You're adding 27 spaces and maybe eliminating a couple? Something seems a little wrong with the math.
let's see, we did it the other day. We
Or
calculated,
was
I thought it
Or was
came out to be.
89 what was on the approved site plan, but
10,
it never had a
11,
construction?
6, so it's 17 spaces according to the correction, right?
So in any event, there's more than sufficient parking spaces today.
Yeah,
To service what's out there
For
now,
what we
there's
have.
more than sufficient.
Okay.
The problem comes if they convert additional space, and then they will have to come back before you.
And it's even with the 106 then, what was corrected from the 109?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, they had a few extra spaces.
The other issue besides the handicap spaces not having the aisles, some of the spaces were 8.5 feet wide. Chuck has redone this on this plan, so they're all 10 feet wide, which is our code and our requirement, but that we prefer to see, so
Yeah.
that's why we maybe lost a few
Yeah,
spaces.
And were
that
the
makes sense.
proper curb depressions and everything required for that?
Chuck's done all that.
Okay.
The site should function a lot better than it did, because it can go
Okay.
all the way around the building now.
Once we have the approval through this parking study, we're prepared to submit to some of the comments that Christian had concerning the grading, concerning the curb and things along lighting. When was the other issue was lighting, which we looked at. And we'll be sending those off to Christian for his,
So what we're trying to do with these change of uses is because they are trying to they've got contractors lined up and businesses going in, they're doing their work at risk, and we're approving the site plans, letting them start at risk and pulling the building departments. They will not get the CO until all their site plan conditions are met.
So if they did have to make changes, it's all on their own?
Correct.
Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, we have a resolution. Name of site plan, 1983, 1989 Route 52. Name of applicant, East Fishkill Realty. Resolution offered by Planning Board member John Eichman. Whereas the applicant is applying for a change of use from office space to medical space, and whereas the change of use will require additional parking and a minor site plan amendment, and whereas the applicant proposed to abandon the existing on-site septic and connect the western building to town sewer, and whereas the existing septic area will be paved and converted to a travel way and parking spaces to improve circulation and provide additional required parking, and whereas additional ADA parking spaces will be installed to meet requirements, whereas no change in the building footprint is proposed, and whereas the proposed project is a type 2 action under seeker and no further environmental review is required. Now therefore be it resolved, the planning board hereby approves the change of use and minor amendments to the site plan for 1983-1989 Route 52 as represented on a map entitled 1983-1989 Route 52 prepared by Chuck P. May and Associates and dated 2/17/23, last revised on 6/20/23 with the following conditions. Number one, the approval is conditioned on the site meeting all Dutchess County Health Department requirements. And number two, proof that the building on the west side of the site is connected to sewer before a CO for the proposed interior work will be issued. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the planning board shall cause a copy of this resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner. May I have a second for that motion?
Second.
We'll do a roll call vote. Board Member Lori G.
Aye.
Board Member Ed Miyoshi.
Aye.
Board Member Sarah Bledsoe.
Aye.
Board Member Richard Campbell.
Aye.
Board Member Donald Pepe. Board Member John Greenan.
Aye.
Chairperson John Eichman. I'm an aye. Carries. Thank you.
So much, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is is Formicola subdivision.
All right. Brian Stacosa, Dane Stacosa Engineering. Existing 3.6 acre parcel. This parcel is located right next to the recreation entrance, the old white building, house on the corner there. What the applicant wants to do is just do a 2-lot subdivision, create one new, brand new residential lot, 4-bedroom house is proposed, individual well, individual septic. It's going to require a driveway permit from New York State DOT. It has good site distance there. We have an application that's going into the DOT to get conceptual approval for the single driveway entrance. No proposed development is being shown for the existing house. What we'll have to do with the Board of Health is, since the age of the house, we'll just have to make sure that a replacement septic is on file in case it ever needs to be installed. What I try to do, being sensitive to, the recreation field behind it, we have the 2 baseball fields directly behind, lots 1 and 2, is that we did a 30-foot no-cut non-disturbance buffer. It's highlighted in that red hatched pattern, just to try to, some vegetation between both parcels. Other than that, we're less than an acre of disturbance. It's just a simple 2-lot split. That's it.
Does vegetation exist in that hatched out pattern already?
Yeah, it's wooded. It's all deciduous,
Yeah.
pretty much. I walked it with Matt. It's, you'll be able to see in, there'll still be nice
Yeah.
wood trees, but you'll be able to see the field and vice versa a little bit. I have a question, and actually it's posing it to the planning board, really. We had always talked about potentially having sidewalks at some point along that side of the road. So I believe there's a pretty large right-of-way along there. But in any event, we should probably look at that and see if there's any easement that might be needed or whatever in order to allow a future sidewalk if the town so chooses to install one at a future date.
Yeah, that's fine.
Excellent.
We've done that
I think it's a great idea. Great. Okay. Any questions, comments by board members? Or town professionals? Christian?
Yeah, I just had a few site plan related comments. They're straightforward. Just had a question. That 30-foot no-cut buffer zone, is that going to be like restrictive covenant that's going to go with the property? Okay. Other than that, I didn't really have any other comments.
We have to declare lead agency.
I'll accept a motion to declare intent to be lead agency.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Any further questions or comments for Brian?
We can move the schedule of public hearing.
I was gonna say, yeah, do we need to schedule?
So I'll accept a motion to, or will you be ready at the next meeting?
Yeah, the comments that were given were relatively minor, so we'll be
Okay.
ready.
So that would be the July 18th, 2023 meeting. Could I have a motion to schedule a public hearing for Formicola subdivision for the July 18th, 2023 meeting?
So moved. Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I appreciate it. I'm going to pull mine and resubmit for next month and make a quick tweak on the next application.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Brian. So the final item on the agenda is a sketch plan for LIDL warehouse. Hey, Ron? Yes, he's going to come back another time.
evening. My name is Matt Boyer. I'm a senior real estate manager with Lidl. Thanks for having us back to update you all on our proposal. For anyone that wasn't part of our last presentation, we are a grocery store chain, and we're seeking to build a distribution warehouse to support our growing network of stores. And I'm going to turn it over to Steve Wilson of Bowler Engineering to update you on our proposal.
Good evening. Thank you. Yes, Steve Wilson with Bowler. We just put in a couple pictures of some other distribution centers that Lidl has done just to more reflect, their intent here and their pride in their stores. If you've ever been to a Lidl store, and that pride carries into their distribution facilities and the logistics network. It's a well-organized, secure facility designed well for trucks entering, employees working there, et cetera. So that's the kind of the goal here, is to develop a similar type of facility for this site. And what is the site? You're probably quite familiar with the area, probably more than I am, but we're right next to the iPark 84, which right there down the center of the street is, center of the sheet is iPark Boulevard, and then to the left is, East Drive. So we're kind of in that node there, right there. That's where the project's going to go. It's about 70 acres of undeveloped with a small transformer facility there up on the north end. So we know we're early on. It's a sketch plan submission. We know we've got a lot of work to do, a lot of design to do, grading and drainage and stormwater management and traffic studies all being worked on. Our goal here is just get some initial discussion going, see what some key issues are so that we can develop a comprehensive package and try to address all your comments if possible. So top of the page there is Limekill Road, and to the right, or to the bottom there is East Drive. So you can see we're kind of sandwiched right in there. And to the page left, you see an entrance coming in to the site, which leads into tractor trailer parking. And then as you travel through that tractor trailer parking, you run into a guard shack to a circular drive that connects to the back of, I guess you'd say, one of the loading areas on the back of the building, the east side of the building. Along that east side of the building, it's all two-way traffic for the trucks, but once that loading area ends, it all goes to counterclockwise circulation, one way around the property and then out to a new drive on another driveway and a guard shack over on East Drive. And then you see the employees would come in along East Drive, with that being the employee entrance to the building. The building's about 874,000 square feet. As was mentioned, it's going to serve Lidl's ongoing and future growth in the market with new grocery stores. It'll have about 250 employees once it's fully worked up. They'll be working over 3 shifts, 24/7, as part of their logistics network.
I'm sorry, I didn't get, how many employees?
About 250 in that range, 200.
Each shift or in total?
In total, yeah. They're hoping to start construction by mid-25, or somewhere in 25, and be done by mid-27. A couple years worth of construction out there. A very robust, the site obviously is attractive because we have a robust and underdeveloped transportation network, water infrastructure, sewer infrastructure that they're all going to take advantage of. We're in discussions now with the owners of the property about connecting the water and sewer system. More discussions to follow, and finalizing a traffic study for the project as well that we'll submit as part of future submissions. That's really it kind of at a high level. I was hoping to get questions after that, so I can, anything else you might have on the project.
Are there any wetlands in that area?
There's a DEC wetland on the top page there that we're going to be encroaching into the buffer. We've had discussion with DEC. I would be kidding if I said they welcomed it with open arms, but they haven't said, no way, forget this. So those discussions and that application process is going to be moved forward in tandem with this.
Has DEC been out to, have they,
Yes, they have.
they verified the boundaries?
I'm waiting to get a sign off on that delineation like any day. Yes, they've been to the site.
Right, so I think this is going to be similar to Frito-Lay, and where they're going to go for the economic redevelopment special permit, because they're going to need the flexibility of the bulk regulations for height and potentially for height. Actually, you're stepping off. There is a provision in our code, and I haven't looked at the measurements yet, that allows you to take advantage once you step off from an industrial property line on a street. The further back you go, the higher the building can get. So I think they're trying to take advantage of that.
Yes.
There is slightly more building coverage than is allowed currently under the typical I-1 zoning regs, so they might have to go, there's a couple bulk things, but
At
I think,
26% versus 25% allowed, is that waiver potential or does that require a variance?
I think we'd have to figure that out.
Okay.
We're still, I'm just giving you some food
Understand.
for thought here.
That's what we're here for.
These are just initial kind of preliminary comments. They're currently underparked per our requirements, but that is typical. We hope that they don't have to provide as much parking as what we require. Let's see. It looks like you're gonna need maybe an land excavation and fill permit, because you're gonna be moving a lot of dirt around. So it looks like the total acreage to be physically disturbed is around 47, 48.
Yep.
So we have to consider a bunch of different things as far as the EAF is concerned. And I would say there's going to be threatened and endangered species, because I'm sure there's going to be Indiana bat habitat, there always is. I don't know if there's any turtles, maybe bog turtle over there.
Confirming that, yes, there was a hit for it, so, but we'll have that addressed.
Let's see what else I got. Oh, your site is technically in an archaeological sensitive area. I don't know what it's sensitive for. Do you know yet?
It's Native American, and yep, we've already coordinated with SHPO, and we have a letter from them saying they want a phase 1A, 1B, which we're working on as well.
Okay. So it says you might need to blast.
Potentially.
Okay.
If looking at the site, you can see there's, the site is tight. And the stormwater system is going to be a challenge here because of that. And we're looking at a mix of surface and subsurface systems that'll be a part of the project to meet the requirements. So, yeah, there's going to be some, quite a bit of earthwork, but we're pushing toward the balance site.
Okay. And then, because that site has a lot of remediation things going on, I don't know if that will impact your site at all. I know your site is largely undeveloped, but I'm not
Right.
sure if there's any issues over there. So are you doing a phase 1, or are you gonna phase 1 environmental assessment?
We've done phase 1 ESA? Yeah. Yes, we have, yeah.
So that should give us the information we need.
Yep.
And then noise analysis will likely be required.
Is there a typical protocol you have for that noise analysis?
We'll have to, we usually sub out for our noise, that we have a consultant that we work with, so we'll have to ask them about what will be required. We can provide you with the one that they did for Amazon facility, but I'm not sure I'm not sure it's gonna be the same thing, so I gotta consult with them first before I know exactly what they'll require. Visual analysis, you should probably some renderings if you have any at this
We're
point.
working on those now, actually, yes.
I'll let you handle traffic. Tree removal, 38 acres of forested land, so some understanding of what that entails, and then,
Earlier, one of the other projects you'd mentioned, like a biological survey that they've done. Is that the kind of thing you typically expect when you have this kind of clearing?
the habitat assessment is typically required if there's Indiana bat or bog turtle habitat, so what they do is they figure out if your project is going to impact that habitat at all, and then they figure out if there's any mitigative actions or impact avoidance that you can do as part of your project. My guess is there won't be here, because it's typically,
The Indiana the bad thing is a no-brainer, yes, we're gonna have to have tree clearing restrictions. I just didn't know, did you expect something more beyond those two issues, like a,
just recently, they also listed the long-eared bat, so there might be a long-eared bat as well, but you'll have to, what we'll do is when we circulate for lead agency, we'll send it around to all of them,
Okay,
and
you're
they'll probably
waiting to do that.
provide us with the comments that they'll require.
that makes sense. Yep.
And I think that's about it for now. I would say like lighting will be lighting, and
Yep,
then
lighting plan we'll have.
the corner of the building is relatively close to Lime Kiln. Right now, in that campus, you don't really see any of the big buildings because they're pretty well hidden interior to the campus. This building will be a little different because you'll see it from Lime Kiln. So there might be some requirements related to the visual and landscaping and that kind of thing.
I guess I'm a little concerned about the number of warehouses that are going up around there. And, they got the Frito-Lay is coming on board. We got the Amazon thing coming on board. There's another big warehouse that's going in front of the Amazon thing. There was a project for Ashley Furniture that was going to be a big warehouse there. I haven't heard anything about that one lately. I guess I'm a little confused as to where you're going to get the 250 people to work that with all the other warehouses that are going up in the area.
I guess, it's permitted use, it's really just their problem.
Well,
All your impacts being mitigated.
well, and somewhat, I agree with you, but if, you're talking about jobs that are going to be paying $35,000, $40,000 a year, I'm not sure that those people are even going to be able to live in this town at all. So they're going to be commuting in. So I think that's probably something that we should at least think about. But I realize that if you want to do that, knock yourself
I guess
out.
you could say that'd be part of our origin destination study that would be rolled into the traffic study to understand where we're pulling from.
So do you serve specific chains of grocery stores, supermarkets?
They're all our own stores.
Just Lidl.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have our network of stores and this facility where we serve those stores.
And how big an area then would you serve?
Sort of regional, I would say it's going to be New York, New Jersey.
And do these stores exist here today?
Some do now, and they're serviced by a further away distribution facility.
So where would be the closest Lidl store to this facility?
Closest store, I can't say.
Northern Jersey somewhere?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have a number in Northern Jersey.
Yeah.
We have approximately 278 on Long Island. We're bringing a number in the city as well. But it's not only existing stores, it would be future stores
Future.
that we plan to add to the network.
Okay. And as you mentioned the height, what is the height of the building going to be?
So it's 70 overall, 70 feet overall. And then there are taller portions where you see at the northwest corner, the small square, which is employee office. And then the larger square at the southeastern corner would be taller. So we anticipate that larger square where we have the proposed automation area to be up to 95 feet.
So that's exceeding Frito-Lay by 20 or so feet roughly?
What do you guys got to say about that?
That's what I was just going to say.
And I guess I have a question too. Is there a way that you can reconfigure the building so that the tallest portions are more interior to the site? I don't know how it's set up right now.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, the tallest one is in that south east corner, which is pushed kind of right up against the wetland.
So previously, we had the automated portion in the
That's right.
northern quarter of the building. I've actually commented last time was to get it pushed back away from the road.
Right.
If possible to reduce the visibility of it a little bit, so.
So it's going to be to the interior road that you'll be able to see it, okay.
Now, is there, inside this warehouse, is there any interior fire protection inside the racking and the retrieval?
Yes, I can't speak to in great technical depth, but yeah, it's all sprinklers.
But beyond just the capacity of the building, I'm saying inside the actual systems, like sometimes they have an actual interior fire protection system that actually runs through the racking system. And I'm talking, not just the top of the building down, I'm talking the individual racking systems and that retrieval system.
We can get you more information on specifically. Plans for the building is still in progress, but yeah.
I mean, I'm only talking,
I'm sorry?
We're gonna get the water.
We're going to tie into the system there?
You better,
And we have water plan too on site.
you better just double check that.
yeah.
We've had other companies made that assumption as well.
But we do have right there on the east side of the employee parking lot, we have a room, we're going to put a water tank there.
What's the best thing for that?
It's still, it's kind of a placeholder for now until we get a little more detail on the building.
But is it going to be for domestic water, or is it again going to be for fire prevention?
Yeah,
Fire protection.
yeah.
It's similar to what Amazon did, because the water supply coming into them
Yeah, it was
will not provide the quantity they need for
Yeah.
fire protection, so they had to put in a tank.
pumping
and fire
system.
pump.
Sure,
That's some things we'll look at too, once we get plans for it.
yeah.
What's the expected truck traffic in a 24-hour period? Up to 300.
Yeah.
300 trucks.
Was probably that peak in the morning. Probably more than half of those trips are going to be in that very early morning window.
Presumably this drive.
Exactly, yeah, that's the beauty of the site, exactly, the access.
Would that affect the school
Yeah, we have to see what that is.
to some degree?
Well, it
But
could.
just to add as far as.
Put that screen again so it,
That Amazon constructed a loop bus drop-off,
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patriot Way, which is a town road.
Yeah,
You know.
Certainly something to consider.
Drop off on a private road, I don't know if the county will,
sure. I mean, it could only help them, for sure.
that's something they should think about.
Did you guys hear what Scott said? So we have a public bus system in the county. It's called the Loop Bus. You may be able to have a stop scheduled near your site. You may
Yeah,
want to
make
look
a
into.
bus stop, because then that would be advantageous for employment.
Absolutely.
It allows more people, more access to your site.
just in terms of a question about the access path from 84, since you're, I think the entrance of your facility for the trucks sort of in the middle of, but you'd expect the trucks to come in on South Drive and then down East Drive, or up to Shenandoah and in.
Until she pulls it.
And I guess the other, and a follow-up to that, is if you do have trucks stacked, which normally an operation like this would, how would the fire trucks have emergency egress into the site to avoid what you would have as potential backup there with regards to an absolute emergency on site?
Well, as I said, about half the site is one-way traffic. And if the truck's entering stack, the fire truck could easily run against traffic when in basically going against the one-way in an emergency if needed. Yep, there we go. Thank you.
So what would the fire equipment be for a 70-foot building and a 95-foot building?
retro.
Yeah.
Okay.
It depends on how close we can get to it.
Right, if you're far away, you need a longer ladder.
Exactly.
The 80-foot piece they're building on the Frito-Lay buildings, we can just make that.
Max.
With a 95-foot ladder. And that's only because the road comes right up to that corner, and we can be close enough to, it's almost straight up. Straight up and down at that point.
Is there any ability for that truck to be retrofitted to exceed the capacity of what it is now, or it's at max now?
So how do you, if cities with taller buildings, how do they handle?
We don't have
No,
them.
I'm just saying, obviously, there's not ladders provided to every skyscraper. I mean, those larger buildings, how do they deal with the fire emergency access issue?
That's not an issue we deal with here.
Okay. There's no other building this tall in town.
No.
This would be the tallest one.
Frito-Lay was probably the tallest.
Yeah, that's like 75 or something, 84.
Correct, yeah. That's the only reason why I said it.
Did we answer the question about access, road?
Yeah, I just, I mean, I was wondering, 'cause, Lime Kiln or I Park Boulevard, South Drive, East Drive.
And then right there.
And that's the primary access.
Exactly.
So the two-way circulation behind the building, that's just to facilitate maneuvering?
That's right. And then it's like, it's a little tighter around the side, so we drop it down to single, one-way after that.
And then is the employee parking that has a separate access?
That's right.
That, I mean, this is right opposite where the back lots was proposed?
Yes.
I mean, I just see some offset between
Yes, it is.
what looks like some existing infrastructure there and access. So might have to look at that a little closer to see how that lines up.
Talking about that, lining up with that existing driveway across the way, yeah. Yep.
And then, you talked about completing a full traffic impact study. And there's obviously been a lot done by my company and also by all these developers here. So there's a lot of information out there.
We're going to need a traffic signal right at the end of.
I was just thinking that. On South Drive.
South Drive, right.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
That's something, we're going to have to look at something.
That's a 4-lane road right there, so that's.
Right.
Because we were, Richard and I were talking that this could impact the people that we're trying to direct going to John Jay up through there. And if you got all these trucks in the morning, that could be an issue.
Right. Well, I'm also, I brought up the idea.
Unless they can utilize that other entrance.
Right, I was bringing up the idea of where your entrance is.
Restricted.
There might be a way to configure it up so that you're actually using Shenandoah as access as opposed.
Directly onto Lime Kiln. Activate
Yes.
that signal. That signal's not active now, right?
No, that signal's active.
The signal's active.
Also, just so everyone understands, this is eliminating, what is it, gate 5?
No, it's gate 3.
And it's gated now, but that's, there's an elimination of that gate entirely. Shenandoah has a light, but I guess, that might,
Where's the truck entrance to the site? Which entrance?
it's right off of East Drive here.
Yeah.
Right.
Page north, no, page
the
left, all
left.
the way to the left.
All the way to the left.
Yeah.
Right here.
That's their main.
No, no, no.
But they can still access it from.
No, one more down.
Go around that way.
Other way.
No, it's all the way to the left.
All the way down on top of where Scott is there, yeah.
Look all the way to the left, extreme left of the TV, and
That's the trailer parking area?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
But that's not your entrance.
Yeah, that's primary.
So that's the exits on the other end then?
Yeah,
It was
you
just
go
point to
two-way
the
up there, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm looking at it. Well, then maybe that helps that situation a little bit.
They want to circulate opposite the way the logistics center said it needed to be.
Right, so this is, well,
That's opposite.
So it doesn't, yeah.
oh, it's counterclockwise. Counterclockwise, is that what's preferred?
Depends on the developers.
It's clockwise, and I say counter, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, clockwise
Okay.
rotation around the site, from the back to the front, yeah.
Just as one counterclockwise.
Right,
Amazon's counterclockwise.
right. Because there's that thing about looking over your shoulder and backing in, right? I mean, there's different way logistics are set up. So that's opposite of intuition, I guess, or a wise, right? Right, so, So then,
That's something to consider, yeah.
right.
That's something, because fair amount of truck traffic.
But, yeah, so, I mean, we can make whatever, data or studies have been done, and there's lots of stuff that's under construction and on the table, so just make sure you, coordinate with getting all of that stuff. And you can, you can see what some of the other,
We could just configure those entrances before trucks.
yes, right. So,
Yep.
yeah, so it might be, exactly, we might push them right back to Shenandoah. And, the corner of South Drive and East Drive, I mean, that's very mixed use, right, or, it's not necessarily all trucks, and then, South Drive, is a town road now, which connects over to the high school, so there's some sensitivity there, just to be aware of that.
Sort that out, yeah.
Yeah, so, and then,
But you're not
certainly
thinking,
the,
you're not thinking trucks would end up over there?
where? No,
by the
but
high
just
school?
in the fact that.
That wouldn't make any sense, they would get on and off 84.
We're just talking about ways to force them out that gate,
Oh, okay.
even employees to a great extent, I think, through signage and
Right.
curbing, et cetera.
Okay.
They're amenable to all that. As long as they hit 84, that's all you care, right?
You said up to 300 trucks per day. Are you intending to have any, like, fuel storage or truck wash, any repairs on site?
No.
Okay.
Do you keep trailers there that aren't connected to tractors?
The two,
First
yeah,
lot
the two
is
parking
trailers.
the two parking lots all the way there to basically on the north edge of the site are designated for trailer parking only.
So then, would that be in addition to 300 trucks traveling in and out, that you would have the trailers there?
The
Or in
trailers,
total?
it's total, and the trailer parking is like staging, trucks empty, there's not a loading dock available for a variety of things as the site to manage.
So they would have the trailer there, like that would get jockeyed to the gate and
Yeah, it
loading
could be,
dock?
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
The main purpose of that first trailer parking area before you get to the guard check-in is essentially, the truck arrives before they're allowed to get access to a dock. They can kind of hold there before they're checked in at the gate and then have access to the facility.
Normally, would they be idling when they're there, would you say, or do they have, requirements, like?
Probably depends on the time of year, right?
Sure. Yeah, because, if it's winter time, the tractor's got to run, it's diesel, and
Product movers inside the building, how they're going to be powered.
As far as just forklifts and things? Yeah.
well, even like if you have the automated, is it hydraulic, do you have, how's it
It makes
operate?
a difference if the
Sure.
battery powered, if they're propane powered, and where they charging them, where they fueling them.
Yeah, so I can only speak to forklifts, because I've used those personally. So the northwest corner, we have charging stations, that's where, so they're going to be batteries are charged. The automated portion, I can't speak to the typical process.
How-
And I'll just suggest in any qualitative data you can take from other sites that you have around the country in terms of, truck volume and operation, any of those things, justifying the amount of parking that you need, all of those things, if you can actually provide, data from your existing facilities, that would help us a lot in looking at it.
Yeah. I guess inclusive of how many facilities it might serve, and if it's the same size and capacity, like you might have one that's 500,000 square feet, but if it's different than this operation that would be 800-something thousand square feet, we would like to understand it, as it functions across the country or however many, places you have.
Does the town establish escrow as part of that? And
When you do a formal application, because right now you're a sketch plan application, you do a formal application, you will have an escrow that's established.
And clarify for me what you're expecting to see is when you say formal application.
So a formal application would include I guess you've already submitted plans, but you probably would provide us additional details.
Yep.
Stormwater I can give you actually the checklist that we have for a typical application. That would probably be the best way to do it. But, and then any additional studies at some point would come as part of the formal application. The seeker really would be fleshed out during the formal application process. And I know you've already done the EAF.
Right, you want to see like a full plan set and SWIP and traffic study as part of a formal application? Is that?
Yes, but you don't, the SWIP typically doesn't get completed right away, right? So you submit whatever information you have, and then as you go on with the iterations of the discussions, you can submit more and more detail. But there is a list of information that's provided initially as part of a formal.
Okay, gotcha.
And then the other thing that would happen as part of formal is we would look into, because the site I know has got a lot of moving parts. So I don't know, I know this is on more than one lot, but I'm not sure if all of these lots are, I'm not sure which lots they are, and I know some of the lots have been condoed out there, so there's like a bunch of different stuff that's happening out there that I have to look at to see whether or not there's other actions that would have to be included. Like, for example, part of the site might be part of another site plan that's already been approved, so we'd have to figure that out.
Okay.
And I can give an example of that right now, the water tower, if that is going to be moved as part of this project, then that, wherever it's getting moved to, may or may not become part of your application, depending on how that occurs, okay? So things like that would probably be fleshed out more during the formal application process.
The existing 200-gallon tank that's there, is that part of your scope to relocate that, or that's by others?
It's by others. Yeah, the owner's planning on demoing that. So we submit the formal application, and based on that, you'd establish an escrow amount.
Correct. When you submit the formal application, they'll figure out the fees for you.
I got you. Okay.
Other questions, comments?
Oh, so we should have an offline discussion perhaps about the building coverage, parking, and kind of height issue, and how we want to address those as part of the
Yeah, I mean,
process.
because it was sketch and we don't have escrow fees, we do a very kind of light review.
Understand.
So I haven't really looked at all of that in depth, and so we can figure all that out. We could either do it, it may actually behoove us to sit down outside of a planning board meeting.
I think so too, and just kind of talk through a few of those issues, and then that would, I guess, would better inform the formal application.
Correct.
Yeah, that'd be great. Awesome.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you again.
Oh, yeah, you will. Yes, thank you. Good night.
Good night. Okay, if there's no further business to be brought before the board, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. So